What is up, Panthers Nation? It's Aaron Duncan here, back again with another video. We're after the draft and things have happened. Of course, the Carolina Panthers on day 2 of the draft drafted their, dare I say, potential quarterback of the future, and Matt Corral with the 3rd round pick after trading up. And of course, the questions are going to come, so we got to go ahead and get ahead of it. Will and should Matt Corral start from day 1? Or should he ride the bench, learn and get groomed, let Sam Darnold take the lumps, and then come in later, maybe a full year, a few games? Well, let's talk about what's going to go on in this and how this affects Matt Rhule's future as it's in the team as a whole. But before we get into that, let me introduce myself. My name is Aaron Duncan here with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. I start off every video by saying, what up, dude? And on Necessary Bluntness, I do recap and analysis of the NFL, in particular the Carolina Panthers. So if you want to see more videos about the squad and just stay up to date with all these type of discussions, I got film analysis, live streams, podcasts, and stuff like that. Hit the subscribe button down below and the bell icon. That way you don't miss a thing. The bell icon is going to make sure you get a notification every time I drop stuff, because it's going to be a lot of different narratives spinning already. You know, we're only a couple of days removed from the draft, and we got a lot of questions, and we got a lot of answers from the draft, but there's still a lot of things to discuss. So make sure you are subscribed to stay in the loop, and also give this video a thumbs up because it really helps me out in the algorithm. Yes, I said algorithm, and it doesn't cost you a thing. So go ahead and hit that button. But let me know down below in the comments how you feel about Matt Corral. I know, were you hot, cold on the pick and getting him at 3rd? Do you think we got good value? And also, do you think he should potentially have a chance to be the day 1 starter? Or you should think they should, no question, start him on the bench, at least for a few games, let alone maybe a full year? Let me know down below in the comments how you feel. Of course, the question was going to come now. They already told Sam Darnold before, leading up to the pre-draft process, that they were going to bring in some competition, whether it was going to be a vet and Jimmy G or Baker Mayfield or somebody else, or it was going to be a rookie that we drafted, whether it was Pickett or Malik or somebody at 6 or somebody later in the draft. They accomplished that goal and they brought in Matt Corral. Now, the way they played out, I think Scott Fitterer played it beautifully. I'll talk about it a little bit more another time, but the way he kind of just held out, let the board fall to where they were, used the quarterbacks falling in the draft to leverage against the Browns, because the asking price for the Browns is probably too sweet for what they wanted to give for a guy like Baker Mayfield. So as the quarterbacks kept sliding, the asking price kept going, but then it got to a point where they'd rather trade to get back into the 3rd and take the quarterback they want versus having to trade for a quarterback and settle again with Baker Mayfield. So I love the way Scott played it overall, but nevertheless, there's a lot of things that go into this. And looking at the press conference after, Matt Rhule had some interesting comments about the timing of how he felt about Matt Corral and how he was, whether he wanted to be a day 1 starter or a developmental piece. Check out the clip right here.
You know, the transition from college to the NFL is really hard. And over the last couple of years, guys trying to make that transition in the first year and having to play right away hasn't been real successful. We will always be a competition-based place. Like, the best players will play, and that we will do our best to have no agendas. But in a perfect world, you know, Matt, coming from a dynamic, fun spread offense that he was in with Coach Kiffin, with Jeff Lebby, coming to the National Football League, the differences in the game, it's going to take some time. And so sometimes when you take those guys at 6, the pressure is so great to put them on the field that, you know, they can get ruined. I think this is the most amazing opportunity for a guy that we think has first-round talent, who has played at a high level, to come in here, grow his body, develop his body, learn under Sam, learn under PJ, 2 tremendous professional players, learn the system from the ground up with Ben. And whenever that time is ready, that he's ready to play, you know, he'll get his opportunity. He's not walking in day 1 and he's a starter. Sam's our starter, but we will compete, and that's what one of the goals was. Hey, let's bring some competition in on the offensive line. Let's bring some competition into the quarterback position, and let these guys go battle it out.
And as you can see, for all intents and purposes, Matt Rhule sounds like he's in no hurry to play Matt Corral. None. like everything seemed like he wanted to almost have him as a red shirt. And, you know, obviously he talked about Ben McAdoo and him having to backtrack his comments. I don't think those comments are relevant at all. I just think they wanted to kind of be respectful for Matt Rhule, Sam Darnold, and whoever may come in. That way they don't send the wrong message, because, you know, these guys are very conscious of the internet and the narratives that go around. Nevertheless, Matt Rhule, from what we hear from David Tepper, there's a lot of things that go into this decision. Now, had we drafted him at 6, like Matt Rhule said, there's a lot of pressure. You almost have to consider playing him at the top spot. You see what happened with the Patriots last year. Whether you like Cam Newton or not, it felt like Cam Newton honestly either won or tied the competition with Mac Jones. But the fact that Mac Jones was a 1st-round draft pick, They felt like they might as well play Mac Jones. If it's close at all, you play the rookie. If it's head over heels, you could play the vet. And if you feel like he's not ready, I feel like even though I think Cam Newton outplayed Mac Jones, I think Mac Jones looked competent enough that they felt comfortable playing with him. And that may be the same scenario that we have with the Panthers. Not saying that they're going to cut Sam Darnold like the Patriots did Cam, but if it's close enough where you feel like, okay, Matt Corral doesn't look lost out there, he doesn't look overwhelmed, maybe it's okay to play him from day one. But if Sam Darnold and them are really close, or Sam Darnold clearly outplays him to the point that Matt Corral looks lost, things look too fast for him, just sit Matt Corral for a little bit, let him learn, let Sam Darnold take all the lumps and do whatever. That's what it seems like Matt Rhule's mentality is, because he talked about getting his body right, because we know some of the knocks on Corral was that he's a little bit has some injuries in his career, and it may become his slight frame. He's like 6'1" and some change, 212 pounds, which is pretty light. However, you expect our offensive line to be better so you don't take that big of a beating. But a lot of the beating that comes with Corral is his style of play when it comes to him running, because he does have that asset of the running game with his legs, but sometimes he doesn't know how to get down. He can get himself in trouble. So maybe that's why Matt Rhule wants to sit him, let him add some muscle, some weight onto himself. That way he can be a little bit tougher and take a beating, because he's not that big of a quarterback. But also, when you have a little bit more job security like Matt Rhule, you don't have to feel that pressure also. Some coaches that are on the hot seat, think like Anthony Lynn, or maybe even last year with Matt Nagy in in Chicago, when you draft a quarterback high, you almost feel some pressure to play. Now, both of these guys did start off the bench. Like Herbert, he started on the bench. Tyrod just happened to be an injury. The same thing with Justin Fields. They played the vet. They were hard-headed about it. It just so happened that an injury happened. They came in and it forced their hand. So those are a couple of different scenarios. Obviously, you have Patrick Mahomes, who pretty much sat his almost a full rookie year, except like one game, but then ended up coming in just going for broke. And then you have guys like Josh Allen, who got in there fairly early also, worked out his lumps, looked kind of shaky at first, relied on his legs until he made that step forward by getting more weapons and getting his arm strength and accuracy, deep ball better. And now he's the MVP candidate. So there's no right or wrong way to go about this scenario, because you just got to worry and judge it and get your hands on this guy and play to his strengths. That's the main thing. When it's early on with these guys, don't try to force a square peg in a round hole. If you have to play them, play to their strength. What does a Corral do? Good at RPO. He's good with the quick release. Give him something like that. You have weapons like DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, and Christian McCaffrey. We have a competent O-line now, it seems like, with the pieces that we added. Just play to Corral's strength. Get the ball out of his hands quick. Let the playmakers do what they need to do. And that's a facet of McAdoo's offense anyway. So I think it could be a setup for Matt Corral to possibly see some early playing time. But if it was my decision as the GM or head coach, I would probably sit Matt Corral just for a few games. Now, Sam did get hurt at some point in the season, and he was trying to run. He cracked his shoulder or blade or whatever, and he got hurt. But that may not be the case. I would play Sam Darnold this is a tough schedule. Play him maybe 3 or 4 games. It gets to the point that he's clearly just thinking it up and you feel better about Corral. What if you've seen in training camp, preseason, and in practice that you feel good enough to the point that you want to put him in? You go ahead and do that. But if Sam comes out, just plays great, why not let him go? The O-line's going to be better. The receivers should be better with the better protection and hopefully better quarterback play. With the healthy Christian McCaffrey, our offense could be okay. So let Sam Darnold prove that he may be improved and that the circumstances were the reason why he played so bad last year. I don't think that's the case. Nevertheless, if there's any question or any doubt, just throw Sam out there. You got to pay him anyway. Might as well let him earn some money. Otherwise, he's going to be the most expensive backup quarterback in the NFL probably. So let Sam go out there, take his lumps, bring Corral on slow. I don't think he's nowhere near it. There's some people just think that he's such a huge project and he was a bad pick. There's no way we should play him at all his rookie year. I don't think that's the case. Now, like I said, Matt Rhule, from what we heard from David Tepper, he may give him 5 years anyway, so he may not be on the hot seat this year like we feel like he is. He keeps talking about things take time, things take time, things take time. And now that he has a quarterback, will Matt Corral buy Matt Rhule more time? Matt Rhule could be wanting to sit him out just because they know that we have him back in his back pocket. A lot of these coaches, when they have new quarterbacks, they try to sit him as long as possible. And then when they play, they can be like, hey, I just got a rookie quarterback. That's my excuse. Bring me back for another year. And some owners are like, no, I'll fire you, bring in somebody better, and then let it take off there. Like I said, Anthony Lynn and Matt Nagy, those are textbook examples of them drafting a rookie quarterback and it not being enough to save their job. Will that be the case for Matt Rhule? I don't think the quarterback decision made a difference anyway. I think Tepper is at a point where he's invested so many years in Matt Rhule. He was going to stick with him regardless, but they did put pressure on them to address the quarterback position. And that's what they did. So we will see what happens, but I got my fingers crossed. Hoping that everything works out for this guy. I really like Matt Corral. A lot of people had him as the top quarterback in this draft. I mean, a lot of people feel like they're cold on him. A lot of people are saying he's Will Grier 2.0. I would ask you to say why. Like, what's the evidence to support that? So we'll see what happens. But you guys let me know down below in the comments how you feel about that. Make sure you are subscribed if you have not. I'm Aaron Duncan signing off for the Necessary Blunt Sports Talk. See you next time. Peace.